life again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is me, Steve Wraith. I'm joined on Geordies here, Geordies there by Mitch, George, Stu, and Steve. And coming in at the last second is Al Walid. Good to see you all, lads. Steve Hasty is stuck in Bishop Auckland. He did messages on the group chat, and the lad said it sounded like a bit of a cry for help. Good luck on your negotiating traffic, Steve. If you can get it on, please do. I'm going to start with something which isn't Newcastle related, lads, and it's this: £7 million for a cheat.
Yes.
For a cheat shirt, and I've just put a tweet out there before I came on air. What price England legends Peter Shilton's shirt? Unbelievable that £7 million, predicted to go at 4 million. Questions over authenticity. Story I'm sure that will run and run. Argentina apparently asking if they could have the shirt back. They've got a cheek, haven't they? But yeah, just putting it out to the chat. Have you got a special bit of football memorabilia in the house? If you have, let us know. We'll try and read out a few. And Mitch, yeah, just to start this off, really, just to your thoughts on the price it's gone for, and have you got a bit of sporting memorabilia that you've got in your bedroom at home or in your bedroom where you are now? Or?
The prices that get bandied around with things like that are always interesting because eventually they're nearly always vanity purchases by somebody who's super rich. And so they'll go for whatever they'll go for, and you can never really put prices on things. What might be worth 7 million to me is certainly not necessarily worth 7 million to the next person along. So
you're just picking up your budgie smugglers, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah, there's them as well. They're priceless, mate. Priceless. So yeah, everybody's got their own little bits and bobs. The one thing I carry with us all the time out here is my grandfather's scarf, and that is priceless football memorabilia to me. It's actually in the cupboard behind us. Actually, when somebody else is talking, I might put the cam off and dive in and go and get it. I've carried that around the world with us everywhere I've gone, and that's a priceless piece of football memorabilia to me. Certainly worth more than a cheat shirt. That has dubious, what's the dubious heritage, shall we say? But I think it's always interesting to see what shirts go for.
It is.
As somebody who used to collect shirts, and I sold all my collection when I moved to Dubai. Got broke up on eBay, and some of them I really wish I'd held on to because I've seen what some of them have gone for recently. But you cannot think like that when you break a collection up. It goes for what it goes for. I owned it for a period of time. It was mine, and it was nice to own. I've certainly never lost money on anything like that, and I've only ever made money. But you certainly wouldn't get 7 million out of me for that particular shirt because I still have problems, including Diego Maradona in the best ever 11, just simply because of the bad stuff that goes with the good stuff.
Of course. George, interesting this, and don't forget, halfway through the show, you can ask George a question. To get them in, I'll highlight them and I'll pick the best ones. But yeah, George, anything of note from you on this whole Maradona shirt? And have you got anything lying around? Have you got a pair of Jackie Milton's boots or something?
No, just what Neil said. I mean, it'll go for what somebody will pay. It's as simple as that. And obviously, it will go to somebody who's got the dosh to shell out several millions. I would suggest the fact that the Argentinians want it back would certainly lend to its authenticity, I would think, because I can't see them wanting something that wasn't real. But I mean, it's as simple as that. It'll go what somebody will pay for it, and so on. Memorabilia, oh well, bits and pieces. He's got his scarf on. It's interesting. What's important to you is not necessarily important to other people. one of the only shirts I have left now was the one which, when we went to Wembley to see the Arsenal final, was it the final or semi-final? Final.
Yeah.
And I hired a vehicle and took all the lads with us. Well, I would never let them pay me for being the chauffeur. So the lads all clubbed together and bought me the replica shirt, Wembley shirt, with FA Cup final, etc. on the front, and a nice red number 3 on the back, which is where I used to play sometimes for the Eng and the juniors, that sort of thing. So there's that. I've got odd bits of newspaper cuttings in which involve me, in one particular which I've hung on to is the one which I was involved in the A team playing against Whitley Bay in the Senior Cup, which we won, and the manager of the A team that day was Jackie Milburn, and I'm told by other people at Newcastle United that it was some of the stuff that was in the report was actually given to the reporter by Jackie Milburn himself. Now that I can't put a price on that, but to me, absolutely special. So that kind of thing. And I'm sure I've got other bits and pieces around if I was to dig deep enough. But and there's a shed load of medals and things in the loft. Some mine, some Neil's, some of Neil's memorabilia as well. So between we've got quite a bit lying around. But that's the ones I would come to mind immediately.
It's funny with me. I've got to be honest, Al-Walid. I've had memorabilia pass through my hands. I think the only thing I really kept a hold of in recent times is something Bobby Cowell's grandson basically he wanted to give us it, but I'll give him some money for it. And it was a 1983-1984 Minerva football, which is the style of balls we used to use in those days, and it's signed by the promotion team from that year. Newcastle got promoted that year. Kevin Keegan was playing, Terry McDermott, Peter Beardsley, and it was Newcastle versus Cardiff, and the Cardiff team signed it as well. So it's actually a match ball. So out of all my Newcastle memorabilia that I've had through my hands, that is the one thing I've kept. Now, obviously for you, it's a little bit different, but is memorabilia something you would like? You would like? I mean, would you like to start a collection of that, or do you already have something yourself?
Of course, I have some collection, and first of all, I have Alan Shearer shirt. It was a gift from Keith Patterson when I visited him and do the show when I was in Newcastle, and also when I was young, Brazil national team visit Saudi Arabia to play some champions, and I have autograph and some pictures with Roberto Carlos and Rivaldo and those players. This is what I remember having, and of course I have a signed picture of Gaza. When also I have it on the auction for NUFC Matters when I was in Newcastle as well. For the shirt of Hands of God of Maradona, I remember reading there was some hesitate. Someone says this is not the shirt. The original shirt was with someone else. So I'm not really sure. But if this is real shirt, the real one, I think it's deserved this amount.
You've got to ask the question really, like, who was bought that? And I mean, it'll probably never be known, but you have a feeling it's going to be some sheikh somewhere who's probably dipped into his loose change. Al-Walid, it's not one of your neighbours, is it?
Well, actually, I think maybe someone from Argentina, because Argentina love Maradona very much, and a lot of stories prove that. So I bet it's maybe someone from Argentina.
It'll be interesting.
He played and managed here in the UAE, so it could easily be somebody like from Pajera or somewhere like that, where he managed from or supporter of one of the clubs he played for in Dubai.
Could have been one of his dealers.
Hit him off his face in Lockstock.
Exactly. Stu, any bits of memorabilia, anything that you've had passed through your hands?
Maybe you never thought it could have been a Scotsman that bought that shirt, by the way. You know, we're all pointing fingers elsewhere, but that's part with money as well, so that's another story. But the memorabilia, a lot I had, I used to get signed shirts all the time when I was going back over. As you know, I'm friends with JC, so I used to get the same shirts, and I used to give them away. You know, it's like one of those things that you think they'll never end, and some of the teams, some of the players, you're looking back. But the best one I had, I think, what I didn't realise at the time, it was Newcastle's last home game in Europe against Sporting Lisbon. And JC got the ball signed by both sets of players. And as it happens, it ended up being Alan Shearer's last game for Newcastle as well. So you got the match ball signed, and he was visiting us in Tenerife. He used to come over for 2 weeks before we'd go to America or something. And he brought that over, and it wasn't for me, it was for my son, who was maybe he's about 4 at the time. And we put it on the mantelpiece case, shelf, whatever. Took pride of place, and then when I left, I said to him, make sure you look after the ball, it's worth a lot. You know, as the years went on, you realise that it was Alan's last game, and it was genuinely signed by all the players. And the ex-wife threw it out, thinking it was just a useless piece of football, and what was the point of it? And it was the match ball. It wasn't just a sign ball; it was the match ball.
Oh dear.
Now, from the same game, I got Alan's in the players' lounge. I got his bottle of champagne for a man of the match, and I give it to somebody who owned a Newcastle sports bar in Tenerife. And when I left, and then I went back again for a visit. Well, went back regular for a visit. The bar closed down, so I never knew what happened to that champagne either. It was a Newcastle United bottle of champagne, and it was Alan had signed, was kind enough to sign the front of it, and I gave that away. And the guy had it in a case in the bar, you know, the special glass case and all that. So I don't know what happened to that, but that ball will haunt me for the rest of my life, I think. You know, because that'd be worth a fortune now. Because say we haven't been in Europe since.
Yeah, but we'll be back sooner rather than later, I think. But I knew you would have some story about some memorabilia, which is great. And Steve Wilkinson, anything that you've had over the years, or something you've still got a hold of?
Well, there's two bits of this. One going back to what you've had, and then you think, oh, that's a lot of rubbish, I'll get it hided away. Then you find that you've had programs dating back to before George's time, you know, and my mum's uncle, who if he was alive now would probably be about 120. He gave me a bunch of programs I remember when I was a kid, and they were probably going back to certainly I think the 50s certainly, and if not more earlier than that. And you know, you put them in a pile, and when you're a kid, you don't appreciate the value that had they been around now, they were probably priceless. Some of them things. The one I've had personally, which I may still have, I don't know. If it is, it's at my old house where my stepson lives now. But in 1976, when we got the League Cup final, there was a competition in either the Chronicle or the Journal, and I won a mirror, which was actually the team photo. It's probably about 2 foot by a foot, that sort of size, in a frame, and but it was the team picture on this mirror, and it was proudly displayed by my wife in the toilet at the previous house because she wouldn't have it anywhere more prominent. Now we had an extension done, you know, and so I don't know where it is, but it's probably still at that house somewhere in some cupboard somewhere. So I mean, that's now nearly 50 years old, so that might be worth a few quid as well. So maybe I'll get 7 million quid for that. So you never know.
You never know.
You're probably gonna burst me bubble and tell me you've all got one now. So
it's like Mitch said, like one man's rubbish is another man's treasure, and people always ask me. I get mainly about true crime stuff. How much is this worth? Is this genuine? I get a lot of questions about create memorabilia and stuff, which I've been a collector of over the years. And I mean, it's that old adage. It's, you know, it's worth what somebody will pay for it. But for that shirt to go for 7.2 million or whatever it was today was absolutely crazy. Anyway, keep your comments coming in if you've got anything that you've actually got or
Steve, I remember something, if I can say.
Yeah.
Messi, when he left Barcelona, he was crying in the conference, and the tissue, it's been taken and sold as well with
Wow.
a large amount of money. Just
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Locks of people's hair. There'll be some bizarre things on especially on eBay. Buyer beware is what Freddie Shepherd said, I believe. L. Stapleton says, I've got an RSJ from the old Milburn stand supporting the opening between my living room and the dining room. Interesting.
Did anybody give it any grass? You used to be able to get the
Yes.
There's a patch in the back garden at my
There's
mum
a
and dad's.
patch in my back garden.
Funny. I've got a lot of the old Platinum Club boards, which one of my mates kindly dug out of the skip outside St James's Park when Ashley first took the club over, and they were chucking them away. So I bought them for the office, but I ended up having to buy them all job lot. And when I tried getting them on the wall, it wasn't as easy as I first thought. But they are a bit historic. Son of THC says, I've got signed balls from the 96 and 98 season. I was 6 and 8 when I got them. My dad specifically said, you do not play with this football. Well, I was a band man. And as soon as he went back to work, I was out playing. He said I was tanned on his return because they were ruined. Bit of a nightmare, that. But yeah, interesting stuff. Don't forget, get your questions in for George. About 15 minutes time, I will ask that question. Jasmine says, I have a signed match program from the home game versus Orient, the 2nd of the 5th, 1981, and it was signed by George Robledo. He was at the match and signed it for me. And I've got to be honest, Jasmine, you must be a mind reader, because I'm going to come to George first, and then we'll come to Mitch. George, you inboxed me a couple of photographs, which you wanted to discuss, and of course, this weekend. So George Robledo's sister at the match. And why was she here, George?
Well, they were unveiling a plaque on the house in Fenham where the Robledos lived. And I thought that was very nice. That's unusual, because not very often you got the two of them together. And that's a photograph I dug out ages ago, because I was doing something for you, I think. And that's the two lads together, Ted and George. There's another one. That's when they signed from Barnsley, and that's their mother. And I would suggest you have a look at the sister when after we go back again, because you can see the family resemblance. You know, it's there. The other thing about that picture is that was the last signing of players that was done by George Martin, who was my manager at the time, because just after that he became the manager of Aston Villa. I mean, people don't realise, while George Martin was manager of Newcastle United, he was negotiating himself another deal with Aston Villa. And unfortunately, Seymour got wind of it and told him straight what he could do. So within a week, he was gone. He was manager of Aston Villa. But that was the last signing he did. And I read a bit that was written by him, reportedly written by him, that said their mum was effectively the agent. And she'd said to George Martin that you can take the two boys, but Jorge must play. And I thought that was really touching, because he did play and made a huge impression on our club and the area, and they loved the area. It's just tragic how the brother lost his life and so on. But yeah, I mean, that plaque is really nice, and it was good to see today representatives of Newcastle United now there, and representatives of the club from Chile there as well, who come all the way from Chile to just see this happen. I think that is, you know, I can understand the sister wanting to come, but representatives of the club, is, you know, from way back all the way from Chile, I think that really does say a lot for the Robledo brothers. I mean, you lads hear me twittering on about Jackie Milburn's being top scorer for 5 years on the trot. Well, second top was George Robledo, and the 2 years either side where it wasn't Milburn, it was Robledo. So, you know, huge goal scorers. They scored a winning goal in the cup final as well. So I just thought, you know, with the plaque going up, it was worth a mention today on this particular segment.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, another set of club legends, and great to see them recognised in the North East. Mitch, it's it is history that we've had to rely on for trophies and stuff like that. But it is nice to see, again, positive PR story. We're seeing this, and I go back to the shows that we did, during lockdown. We used to say that the one thing that Ashley wasn't getting right was PR and not getting it right. And this, the club, week after week are doing it. We've seen a succession of supporters going to the women's first game at the ground, over the weekend, and it's good to see them interacting with everybody, and they're getting it right, and they will get things wrong, and that's where the support of these people who they're meeting will be vital moving forward. But yeah, it's good to see the Robledos honoured, and good to see them entertained at the weekend.
To answer that question before, I think this is a scarf from the early 70s.
Yes, exactly. And there's nothing more surreal than looking at you sitting out there wearing a scarf. What's the temperature?
Oh, it's been in the 40s at some stage today. I'm in AC now. It's a nice 23 inside, so that's fine. Oh, hey man, I can tell you loads of tales about I'm sitting in my shirt sleeves watching people walk past wearing body warmers and gloves, man, and I'm just thinking everybody's lost their mind, Anyway, you know what it is? We talk to them about easy wins. Get your easy wins. Get your easy wins where you can, and there's tons of them. There's absolutely tons of them. Just begging. They're not just low-hanging fruit. They're fruit that they've already dropped off the tree, and you can pick them off the ground. And that's what they're picking up on. And we talk about relying on history, but like the Robledo brothers, go back through our history, see how many times we were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
The modern day offside rule is what it is because of us.
Yeah.
And there's loads of other examples of that where you can go back through in football and history, and you talk about what makes a big club. We've always been a club that's not been frightened to break new ground. That's not been frightened to try something different. That's not been frightened to cut our own path. And again, these things, I think, need to take time to be recognised and say, hey, this was a seminal moment in football and history that still lasts to today, and we should celebrate that because it was us, it was ours, it was black and white, it was won by us. And these are the easy wins. Getting to over 20,000 at the women's game at the weekend, that is just unbelievable. Bearing in mind also,
it wasn't as if they were playing Man City or somebody like that. It was against Anecdotes.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Steve. You've also got to recognise the level in the women's game at which they currently play.
Fourth, yeah.
It wasn't a women's Super League game, and so it shows the potential that could be unlocked there as that team develops and grows and gets bigger within the game, because it's quite clear that under the wing of the new ownership, they want to invest in that side of the club too, which is fab. And again, somewhere else where we could be groundbreaking and revolutionary and do our own thing, cut our own path, and leave an impression. And I think they're the kind of things we should be playing on more. I think this getting involved with the Robledo plaque is just, it's the tip of a potential iceberg. Very easy things to do that'll put smiles on faces. And it's quite clear we'll not just put smiles on faces in the Northeast, all over the football world. And these are the easy wins that me, you, and Steve banged on and on and on about. We probably sounded like broken records, and at times probably sounded like idiots. But, I don't care. You can see where that's going to get you because you're seeing the results now. Yeah.
I believe it's something which you probably, haven't really come to. You've heard George talk about the 1950s, but I think it's just the one thing that shines out from the fact that these two Chilean brothers played for Newcastle in the 1950s is that Newcastle's always been a multicultural society, and they've always welcomed people from other countries. And the welcome you got when you came to the UK, and Newcastle in particular, I think you can really say that that's what we're all about in Newcastle.
Yes, actually, and I don't want to be emotional here, but it was a great experience, and I can say that until now, I can say today, this morning, I received messages from Newcastle fans around the world, not just in England, and this is really I can see that. Remember when we do the show, Newcastle fans around the world.
Yeah.
It's this is really show that Newcastle now is it's getting more internationals, and it's gonna be, I think, #1 club soon, very soon.
Brilliant stuff. Yes, Stu, the Robledo brothers. We're hoping that we're going to have future heroes, but again, just a nice touch by the club, wasn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love Alan Waleed's shirt as well, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic.
From the Keegan's time of playing.
Yeah, this is from Dave Havry, also a gift.
It makes you wonder, though, just going away from the shirt, Alan Waleed, sorry. Do you think they'll have a plaque in Walker for the Amiobi brothers in about 40 years' time?
They might have one for his goals against Sunderland.
Aye, for sure. Now, I think it's right that we don't have short memories, and our heritage, our history is recognised. Because if it wasn't for people like George and Ted, Robledo and the Milburns and the Mitchells, etc., not the two above us, but the players. Well, of course, he was both the legends as well. But the players, it's important that these people are recognised. And I know that you probably don't want to talk about it, but like that Bob Stoker statue situation.
Oh, it's on the list, mate. It's on the list.
It's ignorance, the fact that he won an FA Cup with us, and irrespective of that, he's got a statue beside Sunderland. You don't desecrate a statue like that anyway. Statues are built out of respect from a lot of people, and thankfully he's been taken to task. And as some of you may know, I'm not one to side with the Lord too often, but at the same time, it's important that it's respected in the right way. And to me, it was a disgusting, mindless, childish act that, to me, unfortunately typifies some of the youth today. But that's me sounding like my dad 20 odd years ago. So it's where does it stop? But it's, and I'm so grateful that we get to hear stories from Supermac, from the generation after the Robledo brothers, and the ones that we used to go and watch when we were younger. These people are now being recognised, and then you have the entertainers. It goes in cycles. But the ones that get recognised and rewarded are the ones that deserved it and showed commitment to the club. And I think it's only right that they are respected in the right way. And I thought it was a lovely touch, and it's very, very, very good that the sisters travel to see it, and people from Chile have come to represent, their country. The fact that because they were groundbreaking at the time, weren't they?
Yeah.
So and they were ours. And for something like that, we should cherish it and value it. And shout it from the rooftops. We are Newcastle United, and we do have so many good things going for us. And there's a lot of angles in the media where they want to spin bad things against us. But when we're together as a fan base, we're untouchable. And little things like that, it makes you proud. It makes you burst with pride. Just watching how, and I know Mitch calls it often an easy win, but it's not an easy win because it has to be thought of first. It becomes an easy win once it's been done. And so it was really nice to see.
Yeah, it was. And Steve, it was nice to see. I'm not sure whether you saw the local news, but Steve, it was nice to see Bob Moncur there. And he is a humble guy, Steve Wilkinson, the last man to lift the trophy, 1969. But he was the one that the club sent down there to pay, he paid the respects and to have a club presence. And he said, I get all the praise for being the last person to raise a trophy for Newcastle. He says, but what about this? These guys, they got the 3 cup finals and scored a winner in an FA Cup final. He deserves the praise as well. It was a nice touch.
Yeah, very much so. And I think he epitomises what I hope will happen. I think we always said that the number one priority was for the owners to get a team together, management and players that would keep us in the Premier League, and we've achieved that now. So I think it's now ready to move to the second phase, and I think there's lots of elements of the second phase, and we've talked in the past on this show and others about the bringing in the former players and getting the younger generation, maybe the ones that have only been involved in that. In some cases, you take like Holly, who is there's almost 100% in the is 100% in the Ashley era, and even the ones that came on board in the 90s with Keegan, to let them know that the kind of people who are still around in many cases that go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, and I would like to see, have some way of at the match having, whether it's half time or pre-match, getting more players out and from the past and letting people know the history of the club. Those that are still around, and maybe when I would like to think we'll get a big screen somewhere where we can all see it instead of that thing that's smaller than what I've got in my bedroom stuck in the corner of the Leazes end, where we can probably pre-match show former games and things, and going back and let people see what the games that were around in the the Keegan and Beardsley time in the 80s and for many even the entertainers time, let people see those sort of games playing in the stadium to help build the atmosphere. Not that it needs much building up before the match, but to get you involved in looking back in the past and recognizing the players who have been there and been around, and certainly like to see them get more involved in the club going forward.
No, definitely would. It's very important to remember the history, but it's also important to create new history, and that's what we're hoping for with the takeover. A big shout out, as always, to our sponsors, Spider Miner. You, of course, have worldwide coverage with the lads. It's the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time, whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists www.gohd.com. Thanks also to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to ClearKai. Meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. And thanks to Media Art for all their video work. Don't forget as well, you can subscribe to the channel. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to post a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Might be a slight delay on that this week, only because Neil from Media Art is on his jolly holidays. If you want to become a member, you can make a small donation by joining the channel. Just click join and all the different categories are laid out for you there. If you want to spend a little bit more money, then you can pay £25 using the smart code QR code here. Put your smartphone over the top of it and you can take you straight to the website, or go to nufcmatters.com and look for membership. You get a cup, a pen, a scarf and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. You also get a free car sticker if you are a subscriber. Simply email john@nufcmatters.com and he will send one out to you. Please support the food bank, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is virtual and it is available 365 days of the year. Don't forget our end of season party is at Shearer's Bar. Nick Lowes and Andy Griffin will be on stage Friday the 24th of June. Tickets are £12 and available from nufcmatters.com. The Viva Morrissey event was cancelled. Everybody from our side has been refunded. If you did buy them on Group on a voucher, then go to them for your refunds. But yes, should be a cracking night that with Mick and Andy Griffin making his debut on the after dinner circuit. And don't forget, you've still got time to get your tickets for the signed Alan Shearer ball. There was only 260 made, 99 tickets, £2.99 a go. Enter the raffle today at matters.com. Okay, let's get back to a few of the comments. Andy Davis will come to yours in a little bit. John Spence says, I've still got my ticket stub from the 1976 League Cup final, which is a little bit of memorabilia. And lots of people asking questions about transfers, etc. We'll keep that for the Supermax show. So don't forget, put your questions in for tomorrow night, and we will come to them. But this show is a little bit different. We're trying to be a little bit different on each of the shows. Now, we are halfway through the show, which means it is time for our regular segment. Ask George. Plenty of questions coming in for George. Let's try and rattle through a few of these, George, for the people who've asked. Tom Dixon says, what was your favourite European trip with Newcastle, George?
Back to what I gave answer the other day. It has to be Barcelona. I mean, there was so much about Barcelona being involved, and you know where we were. It was just incredible. Yeah, Barcelona.
Okay, Barcelona. Gary Milligan says, question for George: which player would he have most wanted to play for Newcastle United in any era?
Any era? Oh, goodness gracious! I've got to say with the bad luck we had with injuries, if we'd had a full career out of Tony Green, we would have been having somebody who would have been up there with Messi and all the others, you know. But if I really player I loved and liked for a variety of reasons was Johan Cruyff. I would love to have seen him in a black and white shirt.
Okay, last question. We'll give it to Geordie Toon for life. This is quite a long one. He goes, evening lads. Question for George. Who was the oldest player he's played with, and was he that good that the manager couldn't drop him? And he also says, who was the youngest player you played with, and how did he turn out?
Right. Youngest player is the easiest. Alan Suddick, who turned out quite good, to put it mildly. Although he went off the rails a little bit. I think if Alan Suddick had stayed at Newcastle, he probably would have played for England. I think a lot more than he did. Who was the oldest player I played with? Well, the oldest player I played with was somebody who was from the cup days. I played in the B team, and they were short of in the Northern Combination, and they were short of somebody, and who should be on the touchline helping the kit man and all this sort of thing. But Ron Batty, and I think Ron Batty was about 50 then, and he played in the B team that I was involved in just on that one particular game. And whether the manager couldn't drop him is a moot point, because Ron Batty was lovely, but didn't take kindly to criticism. So I think that probably the manager wouldn't have been happy about dropping him either, because the consequences could have been quite disastrous.
Okay.
So can I go back to memorabilia? I mean, I'm struggling to tell you memorabilia, and of course I'm sitting on one, aren't I?
Oh, the rattle.
That's over 70 years old. Went to the 3 cup finals in the 1950s, and all over the country where the cup was played during that time. So it's well over 70 years old. Made in Swan Hunter Shipyard Joiner Shop.
I think you should take it to the Arsenal game, George, just for the end of the season. It's party time, so I'm sure they'll let you in with it. Give it a good shake.
Gary Milligan says, who had the most muscular legs, Jimmy Schooler or Stuart Pearce?
Oh, God.
Oh, Jimmy Schooler by a mile. Yeah, I mean, he had legs that were like tree trunks. Not by chance, because he worked. You know, he worked in the gym. Another player, frankly, I've said to you lads before that I always think that Jackie Milburn in the start of his era was one of the players of that era who realised that footballers needed to be athletes, not just footballers. And Schooler was one as well. He was in the gym doing weights all the time. I never got that close to Stuart Pearce, but I've got to say Stuart mustn't be far behind. I'll tell you, I don't know if I've told you my Schooler story. I might as well tell it now. I was playing for the Ends against Everton in a Northern Intermediate League Cup match at St James's, and it was very, very cold and icy. and there was ice on the cinder track where they'd removed the snow off the pitch. And the lad playing opposite me for Everton was called O'Hara, a very fast little winger who eventually signed a professional contract for Everton. Anyway, he came towards me, chased the ball, and I sort of blocked him off. And just to help him on his way, I used my hip to ease him. Well, poor sod went flat on his face on the running track, skidded along the ice. When he got up, I mean, what a mess he was in. And so when I went off at half time, those should be standing in the players' tunnel, but Jimmy Schooler with other members of the first team. And as I went past them, I heard him say to some of the lads in the tunnel, "He's a nasty little bugger, isn't he?" which is not a bad compliment from somebody who was regarded as one of the hardest players in the first division.
Brilliant stuff. Great story. Okay, Stu touched on it a little bit earlier. This guy, this I'm not going to call him a fan because he's clearly not. But Christopher Nicholas is a good friend of mine. He's a Sunderland fan, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me using this. But it was on his Facebook page, and he obviously explains that this kid thought it was a good idea to urinate on Sunderland's legendary manager Bob Stokoe, who was in charge in 1973 when they won the FA Cup final and they were in Division 2. Beating the dominant Leeds, he puts. Imagine Preston North End beating Man City for a current day comparison. He thought it would be funny and film it, or rather his mates did, and decided to put it on social media. He then puts, unfortunately, this idiot who claims to be a Newcastle fan, but is from Newton Aycliffe, has been righteously, condemned by Newcastle fans and by Sunderland fans. And of course, now he has been arrested. Mitch, question that came in right at the start. Again, people obviously really annoyed by this, and rightly so. Should the lad who urinated on Bob Stokoe's statue be banned from St James's Park? Well, my mindset is he should be banned from football grounds, full stop, because we don't need this kind of idiot, coming to support our football club. And if he knew his history, he would know that Bob Stokoe played 250 games for Newcastle, was a club legend in the 1950s. And, I just don't know what possessed this kid. Whether he was cajoled into it, whether he's been, under the influence. There's no excuses for that kind of behaviour. He's got to be banned, full stop.
There's certain lines that should just never be crossed when it comes to the kind of rivalry that we have with Sunderland. You and I are in a position where we have genuine red and white mates for one reason and another that were picked up along the way. I'll tell you about one lad who come into the bodega after we lashed them 5-1, shook everybody's hand and stood and had a pint with me. That's what you can do with red and white mates. So when they are proper mates, there's certain lines you just don't go over. You should be banned from every ground. We've got this culture at the minute surrounding social media where people think you can do stuff for a prank and for a laugh, and somehow social media gives you a little bit of defense and anonymity, and there's just no place for it at all. It's why I was very happy when I was approached by a couple of red and whiters to use my Twitter leverage to get it out there. Of course I did, straight away, because it's the kind of thing that needs to be utterly and wholly condemned by everybody of common sense within the black and white community. And I don't want to see that lad anywhere near a football ground of any kind ever again. George,
I can imagine it's going to be the same for everybody, really. But George, discuss that.
Absolutely, and I think my comment was that castration would be too good for him. But the other side of this that I'd like to go to is why on earth don't the supporters of two clubs dwell on the positives between the two clubs? If you look at the players that have played for both clubs and won honours with both clubs, I mean, captains of both clubs, Bobby Bunker, Stan Anderson, Pop Robson, you could go through them all, great players, but for both clubs. And that should be the positive that we're looking on. And indeed, as I've told you before, when my father and I were going to matches when I was a kid, if Newcastle weren't at home and Sunderland were, we would nip through the pedestrian tunnel at Jarrow and hop on the Sunderland supporters bus and go and watch Sunderland. And, a lot of the lads on the buses knew who we were, and particularly my father, that we were Newcastle supporters. We never got into any bother, never into any bother at all. So I would like to see both sets of supporters supporting on the positives, where we've had so many players who've done so much for both clubs. Why should be that kind of stuff? But you're right. He shouldn't go to be allowed in the football ground again. He shouldn't be allowed to get in at all.
Mitch, quick one there for you from Anthony Nickel. He says, "Is there a supporters club or bar in Dubai?"
Oh boy, yeah, it's forever herding cats out here again.
There was last week.
You get them together and then they disappear again. There's a group who are meeting Goodfellas, obviously, that Stu knows really well. My mate John, who's an Everton fan, he runs a bar called Le Petit Belgian Motors. He'd be delighted to host to him. We used to get in there quite regularly before the pandemic hit and the bar got closed for a period. And then after that, it all dissipated again. I've just had a conversation on what's probably the main WhatsApp group out here for the fans and sent them pictures of a gathering in the Philippines and a gathering in Hong Kong. And of course, the Qatar mags, who are 60 plus and strong in Doha, all with more people together than what we're getting together regularly. I've spent my entire life herding the cats in Newcastle United, be it as chair, the trust, or in this supporters group or that supporters group. I'd really love somebody to take that mantle on over here and get everybody back together if possible. I've tried my best in the last 10 years. At the minute, I'm just going to do what's easy for me and be a little bit selfish at this moment in time. But if somebody is prepared to stand up and give us a hand out here, we've got a database, we've got a big WhatsApp group, we're getting everybody together. We're back to herding cats, I'm afraid. So if anybody is coming over and they want to watch a match, do what a lot of other people have done. Plenty of people have reached out to me through Twitter. Just drop us a DM and I'll tell you where I'll be.
Yeah, magpies, not cats, says son of THC. Yeah, Albaleed, that was ridiculous what that young lad did at Sunderland. We don't encourage that kind of thing, but yeah, your views on that, he should be banned. I think. I don't think there's much question on that.
Of course, that he went too far. There is jokes, the stuff we see on Twitter. And everybody usually accepts it just by joke, but this is going too far. Sure, there is no excuses, but of course he's wasted to do something like that and film it. But this is really too far, and the one who would take the video actually also should be banned, not just the one who did the action.
Yeah. Good point, Albaleed. Stu, ridiculous, wasn't it? Ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's rivalry, but that was just stupid.
Well, for one who's fond of the alcohol, as I'm sure we all like to drink, there's times you can't get caught short, and sometimes it's any port, but this was premeditated, and it was seen as meant to be humour, and it just shows the lack of intelligence by the people that filmed, as Albaleed said, that filmed it, that actually did it, and to start singing songs as well, it's not even disgusting, it's abhorrent. I don't think there's strong enough words for, we could keep using them all the phrases as being uneducated, but as far as I'm concerned, this guy actually thought he was being funny, and so I think the best phrase is uneducated. And unfortunately, and this goes before our time, but I'm sure George and possibly Steve remember, there was something called SSS, it was a short, sharp shock, where something like that would be the perfect antidote for what's just happened. There you go, bang, 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 and put them in a Borstal if they're old enough, put them in a youth offenders, or put them in a prison, just 2 or 3 weeks. They said, this is what happens when you cross the line. This is what happens when. Because what's gone out of society, to me, in the last 20, 30 years is respect. And respect has to be earned and not given. And you get people who do things like that, think it's going to be funny, and they think they'll gain followers or viewers from it. And It's disgusting. You know, the authorities have got them now anyway. But there's one thing I wanted to mention earlier. I think it was Paul Dobbs put a caption on about our enigmatic French winger, saying he thinks he can win the Ballon d'Or. Well, from his performances the last 3 months, I think he couldn't win a balloon at the Hopkins. So he needs to, you know, have to decide on what do you want? Do you want to be a team player, or is it all about yourself? And I'd rather move away from something as unsavoury and disgusting is what that young kid and his friend did. You know, and hopefully they get not the short sharp shock, but they get a lesson told so that it's learned by others, you know, and it'll put other people off, because there's no place for that. There was a guy that reached out to Mitch and myself on Twitter. He's a Sunderland fan, but I used to work in Sunderland when Doxford Park first opened before I moved to Tenerife, and I've got a lot of friends from Sunderland. I'm sure I've told stories before. It's playing 5-side in Silksworth, and I purposely used to wear my Newcastle shirt, you know, because then they just want to kick us, and that's how we end up winning the leagues. But you know, the hard-working people, and irrespective of what happens, they do have a fantastic away support, and they're as staunch as what we are. But then we thought we've had lean times; they've had leaner times. And you know what? I'll say this, and I'll probably get abuse for it, but I hope they go up. I hope they win the playoffs. I hope they go up, and I hope Borough win the playoffs, and I hope they go up, because I don't mind 3 Northeast teams in the Premier League. It's good for the region. As long as we're the top ones, I don't mind if Sunderland finished second and Middlesbrough finished third, as long as we finish first and we get the bragging rights. You know, so it really frustrates us, and it's hard for us to get the right words out with, bearing in mind, I know I'm on a public platform, of what the person deserves and what should happen to them. So I think I'll just leave it at that, and just say hopefully the authorities do come down hard on them.
Steve, there's a great suggestion. Make him clean the statue on Friday night at about 7:15 on Friday night before Sunderland play Sheffield Wednesday. Seeing as though he's a hard lad. Do you think he'd be up for that?
Well, I live in Sunderland, as you might know, and you know, less than a mile from the stadium and that statue, and you know, I mean, talking of my friends down here are Sunderland fans, and you've got to try and, well, I couldn't defend. It wasn't something I was trying to do. I was with a group of lads yesterday of my generation, and it's something it disgusts you, and I think it's a generation thing, and probably that thing we talked about earlier on about educating the generation through about what the real rivalry is. You know, I've worked with Sunderland people over the years, and it's great to have good banter. You know, you obviously you look at the results and the situation they're in, and there's a way of doing banter and how you have a go at each other, and you know, it's give and take. But whether it's a generation thing, maybe it is that you're in that sort of generation where they think it's clever to do that sort of thing, and you know, it goes back to, you know, the trouble a few years ago when there was a lot came down to I think it was under 23 match at Sunderland and smashed seats and things like that. We don't want that sort of thing. And I'm with Stu. I think I would like to see them get up. You know, we've had a laugh with them down there in the 3rd division for a few years now. Let them get up in the Championship. Let's see how they get on there, and you know, hopefully they'll get to a point where we do get all 3, Middlesbrough and Sunderland. I would like to see. You cannot really compare them against each other when you know, they're saying, "Oh, we're getting 33,000 going to watch games down here." Well, you know, let's say you're getting into the Premier League and getting the crowds and playing the same teams we are, and competing on a level playing field as far as being in the same division. I would like to see that, and hope all 3 teams can get up in the next few years.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Okay, before we finish, because I've got to get something to eat, because I'm away to see this guy tonight, Stratagem, Alan Partridge. Yeah, I'm sure I'll learn some interesting stuff from that tonight. Mitch, we will leave your prediction until the 3 Amigos, which we're going to have to pre-record tomorrow. So George, just go around the board. Prediction for Sunday, George, against Manchester City away.
1-1 for me. I think
1-1.
We'll dent their championship chances.
Oof, good prediction. Al Walid?
Yeah, I can say it could be a draw.
A draw as well. Okay, Stu.
This could be an NUFC Matters first. I think it's going to be the first time I predict we get beat. I have had a 3-1 bet, by the way, 150 to 1 it was. So if that does come in, I can bet 3-1, a tenner on 3-1 for the next 3.5 seasons or something without worrying about being in arrears. But the head says 2-0 to Man City, but I can see us getting a goal, but I think we may actually get beat 3-1. But we'll give a good account of ourselves. But to me, I was more confident last week against Liverpool than I am against Man City. Man City are, in my opinion, a different proposition. They're so well drilled at what they do, and the way they can interchange. It doesn't matter who they've got up front or in midfield. I just think they're fantastic to watch. So I don't want us to get beat. I hope we don't get beat, but I think we will get beat. And
Steve Wilkinson.
Well, I just hope we don't give them the game like we did up here. You know, they had that nonsense with Clark and Dubravka misunderstanding, and before we know it, we're getting beat 1-0 after less than 10 minutes. As was the case on Saturday, I think we battled well. You know, I think it probably was a fair result in the end. 1-0 was no disgrace. And if we are going to get beat, I hope it's by the same score, that we only lose 1-0. But yeah, your heart always wants to get a goal and maybe give them a fright. So I would like to predict a draw, ones each, but I fear that we'll narrowly lose either 2-1 or 1-0.
Okay, we haven't had one of these for a while, but the Geordies here, Geordies there stuff. The photographs we're asking you to send in. If you're anywhere other than Newcastle, send us a picture of you wearing your Newcastle shop and where you are. And Jeff Carter sent this. Geordies here, Geordies everywhere. Jimmy Moore on Mars. So yeah, don't forget, get your photographs in. Please send them to us at in the usual ways, and we will get them on the show. Lads, been an absolute pleasure as always. Enjoy your weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, lads.
Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.